guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to tell you about my reactions and just what's going on in this book for the first 200 pages. I don't think you're ready for this. I definitely was not ready for this. I didn't even know what to think about. So I am currently reading Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. And my brother, Scott, actually got me to read this book. He's like, if you like fantasy books, this is the dope one. This is the one that I come back to over and over and over again. So I was like, sure, let's shoot. I will try it. And I am not disappointed in any way, shape, or form with how this book is written so far. If you want to see my ghetto lamination, I put some tape on it and I never finished putting tape on it just because I noticed after a few pages my binding was starting to unravel. So let's talk about this. Okay, so I read the first 200 pages of this book. This book is almost 1,000 pages. There are 936 pages in this. So I figured I would just take 200 pages at a time and kind of make a web series. So there's 15 chapters within this 200 page, give or take a few pages. In the first 200 pages, we meet a couple characters and we get to see some of their strengths and some of their flaws. So we meet Richard. Richard is the main character, and we also meet someone he looks up to his whole life. His name is Zed. Then we also meet his Richard's brother Michael and Kaylin. And we hear of Darken Roll, who is supposed to be the big bad ugly. So this book starts out where most books don't. We start off with finding Richard's father brutally murdered. I am talking about his intestines just ripped out, brutally murdered. All the guts and all the gore right there, right when you first start the book. So Richard's trying to figure out where his father could have left a message for him or what happened. And when he goes to his dad's house, he finds this little vine, like a little twig, inside of a cup. And when he picks it up, he goes and touches it. Well, he goes to pick up this cup or a jar or whatever. He goes to pick it up, and the twig like launches itself into his hand. And that's the first sign of magic that you see in this book. So reading that, it kind of shocked me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm thinking like, okay, I know this is fantasy. I know now there's some kind of magic, so it's probably plant magic. And Richard goes off to go figure out where he could find a source for this plant, see if he could find another so he can figure out what it was, because he's been trained by Zed all about plants. He should know exactly what it is, but this is an unfamiliar species to him. So while he's out looking, he notices there is a girl kind of walking pretty fast in the distance, and she's being followed by 4 men. These men do not seem like their companions at all. So he goes across the way. He is running, like just booking it. And he's trying to save her from harm. So when he meets up with her, he tells her that she's being followed. She's like, how many people? He's like, there's 4. And she's like, oh, crap. All right, get me out of here. I trust you. Do you trust me? Get me out of here. So at this point, my head's like, I feel like this is like a princess and maybe they're her escorts and she's supposed to like stay with them, but instead of staying with them, she wants her own like freedom, because he had mentioned that they are in a very close vicinity. And they're not running, they're just kind of trailing her. So, turns out, she's not a princess. And that's not the case. These men who were following her are trying to murder her. So they try to outrun her. At this point, I'm like, oh crap. Okay, so they're trying to outrun them, and they don't. They don't succeed at outrunning them. They meet up ahead, and they get in an altercation, and then something happened, like a boom, magic happens, and the 4 men die. So at this point, Richard's like, I don't know what happened, but we need to get you out of here. My brother would know. So he takes her to his village to meet her brother, and her brother is like the equivalent of like a mayor in this village. So he's giving a big old speech, and they're trying to let him know what happened. After they leave there, Richard is like, I need to get something from my house. So they go to the house. Kaylin stays on the outside, and Richard like creeps his way in, and he notices that things are off. There's somebody hiding inside the house waiting for him. Probably the same person that brutally murdered and dismembered his father. So he sneaks in real quick and sneaks out, and then they go and find Zed. On their journey, it takes a couple days. On their journey, Richard and Kaylin have a chance to talk. He's like, where did you come from? What are you doing here? Why are you alone? And she kind of just gives him a little bit of information. Really a lot of information, but she's dancing around the truth. So she tells him this story of how she came here. Basically, there were 5 wizards that sent her to this land, and in order to do that, they sacrificed themselves, which means they died, to get her where she's at. She is on a mission to find the last wizard, this great wizard, who was the very first one to leave their land. And Richard's like, oh, Zed would know how to help you. He's intelligent. He'll know. So they get to Zed's place, and instantly Zed knows who she is. And at this point, Richard is feeling ill. He's feverish. He's sweating. He's about to pass out, all because of that twig that was in his hand. So he does end up passing out. And Zed goes out to go make a concoction with some herbs, like an antidote, to bring back. And he gets Kaylin to help him. And while he is out, Kaylin is talking to Zed, and Zed's trying to make sure that Kaylin won't hurt Richard, and Kaylin is trying to make sure Zed's doing his job as a wizard. Huh, plot twist. So the last wizard that they're looking for is Zed. All right, so then one of the biggest elements of this is the fact that there's supposed to be a magical book. After Richard is cured, Zed is talking to him, and Richard's like, I know you're the wizard, dude. What's up? He's like, I know you're the wizard. So this is what needs to happen. Richard figures out that Zed is the wizard, and then becomes the seeker. Richard is given the Sword of Truth, which is supposed to help him in basically every aspect except the most important one, defeating Dark and Rawl, the big bad ugly. And the Sword of Truth operates on the perception of the user. So it's a little gray line because, you know, my truth is different than your truth and vice versa. But just because my truth is different than yours doesn't mean that it's true. Doesn't mean that it's false either. And in order to use this sword, the sword calls upon the rage that's inside of the person. So Richard has to use his anger in order to use this. Okay, so there's kind of like the brief summary. I just have to say, one of the funniest things inside this book is a scene where these angry villagers come meet them outside of Zed's house. I just have to say, so part of me hates the fact that I'm reading this book alone because I have no one to talk to about the book, except you guys, but I just now thought of doing this. So there's a scene in this where the villagers are angry. They're just livid because Zed, someone they've known for like all their life, has been around and living and operating and all that with magic. They just figured out that he's a wizard, a warlock, whatever you want to call him, right? And they're livid. They're just, you know, kind of like thinking like the Frankenstein, like, ooh, and the villager trying to kill Frankenstein. These villagers are so upset. They're armed with picks. They're armed with pitchforks and shovels or axes, and so they're like, "You're a witch! You're a witch! How could you? He intends to do harm. He can do this. He can do that." And Zed maintains composure. He is just like, really? Okay. So yeah, okay. Yeah, I could do that. Have I? No. But I could do that. So, insert the villagers. You're a witch, you're a witch, you're a witch. All right? And at this point, Zed's like, okay. Are you upset that I'm a witch? Or are you upset that I have magic? Because if you're upset that I'm a witch, then that's an entirely different insult because you're calling me a girl, and girls are witches and boys are warlocks. So which is it, men? And they're all confused. This killed me because these people intend to take his life. They're so mad. They just want to kill him. And all Zed can do is like, okay, politically correct. Which one? Because I'm not a girl. I'm not a girl. So they're all confused and they're like, okay, well, you can do this, you can do that, and naming all these things that's terrifying to them, just straight up terrifying. And at this point, Zed is like, okay, you're right. I can do all those things, and I can do much, much worse. I can do much, much more. So, listen. I'm impressed, though. You guys have to be the bravest people on this earth, the bravest men I've ever known. You know why? Because you come here intending to do me harm, intending to take my life away. And you intend to do this with axes and pitchforks. And you're intending to do it to a warlock who can do all these things. I've got to give it up to you. You guys are impressive. At this point, they're even more spooked. And Zed is now my idol. It was the greatest moment so far in this book. And I loved it. And this part is kind of a spoiler, but it's just like the author presented already a funny situation and then just kept piling on more and more to make it even better. And I loved that. I was living for those few pages. So Zed makes them think that their manhood is gone. because they wanted to take something that was near and dear to his life, or sorry, near and dear to him. So he's going to take something that's near and dear to them. And it was just hilarious. I've never read a book like this before, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I know it's only the first 200 pages, but I'm having a blast, and like I want to take my time and not have to read straight through. So that's why I'm doing these little short episodes where it's just a few hundred pages and my reactions. A little bit after that happens, these characters are getting chased by these monstrosities, something rumored to be able to hear the heartbeat in a man and hunt that sound down, no matter the distance. Like, that is frightening. I'm just enjoying myself with this book. I really, really am. So that's all for this episode. I am gonna let you guys go, and I'll see you for the next set of pages. Thank you for coming to Cracking Books Open. Why don't you go get cracking on cracking a book open? That was so cheesy. Oh my gosh.